Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. I've been watching webinars all morning. First,
Good.
so it's nice to see you in person.
Good.
Hi.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I kind of hope no one else comes because I have a lot.
You can always jump on my calendar too.
Okay, cool. Okay. Um,
Where are you from?
I'm from Mirror Image Arts,
Okay.
and so I'll give you a little background. So what we do is we're an arts program that's disrupting the pipeline to prison through theater specifically. We're in public schools, like high need public schools. We're in facility schools, and we're also in alternative and charter schools. And
Okay.
then we are also in youth incarceration spaces. So we work a lot with DYS.
Oh, my husband's a correctional officer for youth
Oh,
services.
wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, So what we do is we go into these spaces and we kind of teach those social emotional learning skills through theater.
Okay.
Um, it's really impactful for kids to like their brains to work that way, using their imagination and kind of, you know, putting those like sneaky SEL skills in. Like they don't realize that they're learning to be more empathetic and confident, but they are, which is great. Um, and so that's the bulk of what we do. We also have like a little learning early literacy program as well. And we also do some professional development. There's a lot of, you know, youth serving adults who haven't flexed their own social emotional learning skills. So we also do a lot of that. For this grant specifically, so this is project only, right? No gen ops.
What do you mean?
Um,
Because that is
so
very different
I know.
vocabulary across the spaces that we intersect.
Okay, so I guess my first question would be, so we are in Jefferson County. So our offices are in Jefferson County. And we do a lot of work in Jefferson County, but we're also doing a lot of work just in the Denver metro area. And so I know that there were some like allowances for work outside of Jefferson County and the other counties. We're only
No.
okay.
So the money can only be used in Region 10.
Okay, great.
So Jefferson, Gilpin, and Clear Creek counties. So
Okay,
if you
great.
if you also operate in Denver, we cannot fund the parts of your program that operate in Denver.
Okay, no problem. That answers two of my questions.
Good.
Okay, so our work in Jefferson County is the bulk of it is through DYS. So we're in, um, let me pull up the spaces that we're in specifically. So we are in Mount View, which is a youth detention facility. We do diversion work through Pathways, which is the Jefferson County DA. And then we are also doing diversion programming through the Arvada Municipal Court. And then, like I said, our offices are in Jefferson County. We are piloting a reintegration program and currently going through construction and building a reintegration center for youth and their families. So that would be the work that would be taking place in Jefferson County.
Um, so I'm going to ask kind of two questions. The
Yes.
first, the first part of the question is, what would your budget ask before? Construction costs?
No, because we've already done it. They're finishing this week, the
Okay,
construction. So it's already done.
okay.
And I usually capital isn't for anything that's been done before.
Right. It has to be moving forward. So we do work on a
Yeah.
reimbursement model.
Hmm.
Um, the council has finally taken a stance on capital, but we don't have any policies surrounding capital yet.
Hmm.
Um, so that's not relevant to this conversation though.
Yeah.
So going back to what would your budget ask before? Like stipends, furniture, supplies?
So mostly it would be so if we're speaking solely to kind of continuing to pilot this reintegration center and the reintegration programming, it would be to hire some staff. Um, and it would be to, let me pull up. We recently applied for a very comprehensive grant for this, which we didn't get, but yeah, so it would be to hire some new staff. And then we do have a social worker currently on staff. She would be heading up a lot of the programming. Um, and it would be to do like one-on-one case management, um, help them get jobs. We've done some like resume and interview workshops.
So that's the staff salaries. What's the second
Yep.
thing?
Um,
Or is it
we
just staff salaries?
it's that well, but a part of it is also wanting to do some like retreats for them and their families.
So programming costs.
Yes. And then there's some other, I don't know if you would consider it capital, but we want to build out a kind of like a tech center as well as a donation closet. So the tech center would have laptops for use, copy machine, things like that we would need to purchase, as well as the donation closet, which would have like diapers and baby formula. A lot of the young people we work with are young parents. Interview clothes, shoes, just basic day to day needs, things like that.
Okay. Um, all of that falls under approved uses, Exhibit E. Have you seen Exhibit E?
Um,
So,
yes.
okay, I was gonna say you can literally just Google COAG, COAG, Exhibit E, and then it'll come up. I also have it linked in the funding announcement and
Mm-hmm.
on the landing page a little bit earlier up, approved uses. So all of that falls in there. You have two barriers
Mm-hmm.
to break down. The
Okay.
first barrier is that the council is in its infancy. So this is its only second round of funding. It's only been an entity of some kind for 3 years. They're
Okay.
not currently interested in progressive, novel, innovative, experimental projects. They
Okay.
want to fund existing programs, projects with proven track records of success. So you mentioned that this is a pilot program, so you
Okay.
don't have efficacy data on it. That falls under the high risk
Mm-hmm.
category.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it's out of the question, but it is a higher risk for the council. So any way that you can lean into efficacy data of your program as a whole that would lead you to believe this pilot program would be successful is what you want to include in your narrative.
Okay.
The second kind of barrier that you have, I think of this more of like a stream that has to get crossed, is that I never once heard you say substance use disorder.
So yeah, that was the other thing is like we don't directly address that.
Yeah, so the COAG has something that they refer to as co-contributing factors. Justice-involved individuals are at an extremely high risk of
Mm-hmm.
substance use disorder
Mm-hmm.
and are less likely to have access to recovery support services. So you fit very nicely in a target population of great interest to the Region 10 Council. However, it is in a very roundabout way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said it's more of like a stream that has to get crossed, not a river, not an ocean, not a mountain. It is a
Mm-hmm.
stream. So any data that you have on your participants of prior substance use history, substance use involvement, if you look at recovery capital measures, people who have low recovery capital measures, in your narrative, somehow painting that picture that your program works with co-contributing factors of substance use disorder is how you would, I guess, like build that bridge to cross the stream.
Okay.
It's still, like I said, it still fits in approved uses. It's also helpful to think of like where this money comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you get a chance to go to the listening tour on the 20th in Jefferson County, I highly recommend you come to that.
Okay.
It's actually next Thursday. It's at 10 a.m. at the Jefferson Course and Admin Building in the Faye Griffin Conference Room. But I'm going to talk about like the national opioid settlement, specifically the regional council, and then have space to like talk about how people, what gaps people are seeing, how they would like to see those gaps filled. And then that conversation will direct the council during the review process. But the money, very briefly, comes from several lawsuits against the manufacturers of opioids and the pharmacies they contracted with because they were marketed as non-addictive.
Okay.
So the abatement money, which means to make right, is
Mm-hmm.
trying, like, should be used on programs that divert opioid use, opioid misuse, increase access to recovery and support services. So again, like I said, like you do that with justice involved individuals really well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just kind of painting a more explicit line from A to B for the review committee.
Okay. So when you speak to that data on the populations that we serve, are you speaking more so like we don't have a huge amount of like individual data that's that specific? It's not a question we ask. We don't ask, are you, it's also, a little difficult, because of a lot of there's some spaces in which, um, we just aren't allowed to ask those kind of questions. Um, so can it be data that's not from our surveys and our data gathering, but data that, we can find in our own research specific to this population?
Generally, no. We want to know about the work that you are already doing and how you are already embedded in those populations of interest, like
Okay.
working with those populations of interest. Like we don't need national data on substance use disorder. Like we have
Right.
that. We are
Yeah.
very aware of that. Um, However, because I know other people are going to watch this, and so I want
Mm-hmm.
to be very specific. For your program, it might be beneficial to mention that you don't have that data, why
Mm-hmm.
you don't have that data, and then draw parallels to those state or national data sets.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Noel Vest Noelvest. I think he's at Boston College right now. He does a lot of work of like substance use disorder in prison and
Mm-hmm.
recovery.
Mm-hmm.
He is a person in recovery. He is justice involved. He found his recovery in prison. So he has a lot of research and data on that. So that his work might be worth looking into, or at least
Okay.
get some footnotes of other people who are doing that work.
Okay.
Because like I said, it's about you have two risks. Like it's a pilot program.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like every application is like we're piloting something, and I'm like the
Mm-hmm.
council's not there.
Right. Our work within DYS is not a pilot program. That's been going on for several years. But again, it feels like it might land in that like experimental, right? We're using theater to teach SEL. And so like I don't know if the council would be interested in funding an arts program essentially for these youth in DYS.
I mean, there is like I just got on Google Scholar, and there is a lot. I mean, there's enough literature to say that art is an empirically studied method of
Mm-hmm.
working with justice involved youth.
Yeah.
Um, but you're specifically looking at an integration program, and you have no idea if that integration program has any efficacy. So
Right.
it's not the art that is experimental.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reintegration program that we don't know is successful.
Right. I was more talking about like applying for funding specifically for the programming that's already in existence.
So are you talking about switching up your RFA to be from funding the reintegration program to just funding your work that you're already doing in DYS?
Yes.
That would be a very safe foot in the door.
Okay. Great.
That would be, yeah, that would be like an easier get your foot in the door, get acquainted and familiar with the council, with their work, build those relationships. And then in year 2 or 3, look at funding that reintegration program.
Okay.
Because at
Great.
that point, you will have already had at least some preliminary data on the success of the program. The council will have gotten to know you and the work that
Mm-hmm.
you've done and seen quarterly reports on your success. So now you're just proving to them that you are the person to take this risk on.
Okay. Great. Sounds good.
You can, at this time, we don't have limitations on the number of proposals people can submit, and I might hate myself for this later. So you can do 2 proposals.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do a proposal for the work that you're already doing, and then do a second proposal for that pilot reintegration program. It does get people thinking and
Mm-hmm.
talking about that gap and that possibility. It's like planting a seed, if you will. Just knowing that the chances of it getting funded are significantly lower. But you're playing the long game in that
Right.
essence.
Right. Okay. Okay. And then a few other questions.
Yeah.
I guess speaking to like the competitiveness of the grant and how many applicants are expected and how you said this was only the second round of funding.
Yeah,
Generally like how competitive it is.
I cannot speak to that. I have only been with the council since October, so this will be my first round of funding with them. Um, because they used a different mechanism in the first round, that information unfortunately is not available to me because of county procurement policies. that is why this is a different mechanism that is more open, more transparent. The council, we are not a county entity. They literally just manage our bank account. But there was no policies on how they manage a fiscal agency relationship in the first round of funding. So I cannot unfortunately speak to the competitiveness. I have no idea how many applications we're going to get. I think my life is going to be a living hell for the next couple of months, to be honest. I also cannot speak to the internal politics because, like I said, I've only been with the council since October. I'm still very much getting to know the individual council members. We did put an About Me page up so you can kind of like read about the 16 voting members and try to get some insight that way to like what their interests are. I can say that none of them are trained grant reviewers.
Okay.
They do passively like review grants in their elected and appointed positions in the county, but they are not like SAMHSA, NIH trained grant reviewers. They are also not experts in the field of substance use disorder and addiction or recovery. So there is a lot of education in that goes into this review process. We do have an external advisory board, which is just general community members. Anyone, you have to be nominated by a voting member and then voted on by the council. In order to review applications, that membership had to be confirmed at the January 27th meeting. So those people are the experts in substance use disorder, recovery, addiction in some way, shape, or form. Again, no one is a trained grant reviewer. The March 24th full council meeting, which I highly recommend you attend, there will be education on how to review a grant and how to use the rubric. So we'll go over a not good, a decent, and a really good application to get the education on the different components that they should be looking at. Again, focusing more on the transferability of things that are in each hypothetical grant. And then the review committee will have already received their evaluation form via email. That's not open to the public, but the rubric itself is available to view. And then they will grade a grant application. And then I will individually go through the scores looking for extreme outliers and then reach out on a one-on-one basis to give additional training and education on the rubric. So yeah, you should go to that meeting because that will like, again, go over the rubric, the more like transferability of the, like what should be in your grant and how it should be communicated.
Okay. Okay. And then I'm trying to figure out what I want to ask next. So this is kind of more I'll go back to that one. So our director, executive director, I sent her that, we're going to need these bio sketches. And she had a moment of panic of like, oh, we're not like this. We're not like, most of our staff is, they're teaching artists.
So the bio sketch is an equitable resume. Okay. So in the that's all it is. It's just a generic format that we want everyone to use. Okay. Because then you do get people like you get CEOs of JCMH who submit their curriculum vitae and it's like 15 pages long and it's very elaborate. And then you get a peer recovery coach on the ground who has a one-page resume. That's not very equitable. So the bio sketch, it should be limited to like the 4 most involved people in the program.
Right.
And it should be no more than 2 pages. Most people will only have 1 page. And there is a webinar specifically on the bio sketch.
I did watch that and it was helpful.
Okay. And it, like I said, it really is more of just like a generic, you should have everything already. If it, like she's an executive director, so she should have a curriculum vitae.
Yeah.
She should just be able to like copy and paste a lot of that into the
Mhm.
bio sketch.
Right. Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's
Our dishwasher is getting fixed, and I
okay.
think he just showed up. So sorry. Okay, great. I just wanted to like reassure her that it's not, we don't need, she's like, oh, the only person who has like a master's is Nicole. And I'm like, I
No,
don't think
that's
that
okay.
matters.
No, that does not
Okay.
matter.
Okay, great. Um, and then another quick one. Um, we have a couple of letters of support from our site partners, but we mostly have MOUs. Is that an okay substitute for letters of support?
So yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to say this again because people keep asking me about letters of support.
Right.
And we do not, I really should change the name. So the letter of support should really only be used by people that you intend to partner with on the project you describe in your application.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it could be just a generic letter of support that they agree to partner with you as described in
Mhm.
the application. It has like 10 different signatures on it.
Mhm.
That would be fine.
Okay.
You would, in additional attachments, if you already have MOUs, you would you could create just a one-page document that says like our organization has MOUs with the following organizations, and then it lists. That would be
Okay.
the exact same thing.
Okay. Great.
The letter of acknowledgement is intended like if you wanted to reach out to Gilpin County and expand services to Gilpin County, you would
Mhm.
want a letter of acknowledgement from literally anybody in Gilpin County. It does not need to be an elected official. Preferably, it is not a voting member of the council of the
Mhm.
GROC that says they've spoken with you about your idea. They know that you're submitting an application to service their community. They're
Mhm.
interested in learning more. And all it does is signal to the council that, like, for example, in the first round of funding, there was a staffing agency from New York that submitted a great application to do a co-responder program in all 3 counties.
Mhm.
But like no one knew who they were. And each of the 3 counties were supporting a co-responder program. So it was kind of like the New York staffing agency, even though it was good, it was community placed, not
Mhm.
community based. So that's all that is
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, and then looking, so I watched the webinar on the timeline. Um, if we're writing for a program that already exists and is already established, um, I've done this before, but I kind of wanted to get if there was anything specific you wanted to see in a timeline for an existing program. I can do a
Well,
general one.
it would be what is your timeline for using the funds?
Okay.
So even if it is an existing program, it's still like, how do you plan to spend money each quarter?
Gotcha. Okay. That should be no problem.
Okay, and it might be smaller because it is already existing. And so maybe it is only stipends and programming, and so maybe it is only like $10,000 of stipends and programming in quarter 1, and
Mhm.
the exact same thing in quarter 2, exact same thing in quarter 3. That's totally fine.
Okay, great. Um, and then for the disclaimer of transparency, so um, there's essentially two, so we don't have any like guaranteed funding at this point. A lot of our multi-year grants are renewing this year um, for this specific area. Um, we're anticipating a general operating grant for the work we do in Jefferson County. Do we need to uh, disclose the grants that we have not yet applied to or are not committed yet?
Yes,
Okay.
that is also more of just like a heads up.
Yeah.
and way for us to track like who's applying where, what programs are
Hmm.
like being funded by other mechanisms. We cannot duplicate funding.
Right.
So if you are applying for a salary and programming that are also included in a different mechanism,
Hmm.
if that award is made before our award, you have
Hmm.
to notify us. And
Okay.
then this is one of those, like, we don't have a policy, it's never happened. We'll kind of make it up as if we get there.
Hmm.
Either you would completely withdraw your application or you would have to change your funding lines, like
Hmm.
where the
Okay.
GROC money would be allocated. Two, if our award is announced before that other award and you accept ours,
Hmm.
then you have to decline pieces of the other award or reallocate that money.
Okay.
And if we haven't distributed money yet, because it sounds like those other grants are a little bit bigger and a little bit more comprehensive, so they might be more difficult to change.
Hmm.
If we haven't distributed any money yet, we might be able to change your application.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm totally making this up.
Okay.
We have no precedent. I don't know what legal is going to say if that
Right.
does happen. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily, I don't want to say necessarily like, um, I don't have words right now. It disqualifies you.
Right.
It's more just kind of like keeping us appraised that
Hmm.
you will do your diligence to make sure that we don't duplicate funding lines.
Gotcha. Okay. I think just like one or two more questions.
Yeah, of course. No,
Um,
you got time.
so I know the kind of the reporting requirements are going to be based on the goals and objectives that we put in our grant. Are there any other like data requirements that are outside of that? For instance, like we sometimes have issue with getting some demographic information. Um, we don't ask about like sexual orientation because that can put these youth at risk and things like that. So I didn't know. We always like to ask that question so we know, what you will be requiring and what we can actually realistically give. Age,
Yeah,
gender, that kind of thing is fine, but there's other things that we've been
yeah.
asked to get that we
So
just can't.
I'm very much in the camp of you can compare apples and oranges because they're both fruits.
Hmm.
And again, just very community based that not everyone can collect the exact same metrics. And just recording in the narrative why you can't
Hmm.
collect those metrics that trying to get the council to see that as well.
Hmm.
That's a little bit of a newer endeavor. So yeah, whatever you declare in your evaluation plan is the metrics that you're going to collect. Like that is what we're going to hold you to.
Hmm.
And then there will be quarterly learning forums for the grantees where we
Hmm.
all get on a call and we talk about like filling out the template for reporting, kind of like different ways that you can use the template to fit your program, how to say that you don't collect a metric if
Hmm.
other people are collecting the metric. But really, whatever you declare in your evaluation plan is what we will expect you to collect.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because like these spaces specifically in Jefferson County are HIPAA protected,
Mhm.
so we just kind of we do surveys and we can collect that information. We just have a really hard time collecting certain demographic information
Yeah.
because of HIPAA. Okay, and
And
then
I would say with that, the council is just most concerned that we are serving populations who need to be served the most.
Okay.
And this is like a catch. This is like, I think what a lot of people have issues with DEI, is that they think it's like just race based. And it's
Right.
like, no, literally, you're working in justice involved. Those people need it the most. That
Yeah.
blanket statistic is all you really need.
Yeah.
But if you can collect like how many males, how many females, if you like having people separated, that's of
Hmm.
interest. Obviously, any type of substance use history or
Hmm.
recovery capital measures that you can get. Um, we're really interested in that. Uh, but definitely more of that, like more sensitive stuff. We're interested, but like we understand that
Hmm.
it's especially with minors, that's just like not gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the reimbursement process, is it a pretty standard just send monthly or quarterly or however often the what we did and invoices and things like that?
Yeah, so we do monthly right now.
Okay.
And yeah, you just submit depending on what your budget looks like is how the fiscal contact will work with you on what your invoice should look like. So like we do have two of our programs right now. They're really straightforward salaries. And so they submit like a two line salary, hours, cost. And then one of our other program, Advocates for Recovery, they have a very complex budget. So
Hmm.
they took their line item budget and they put like the total amount requested for each line item. And then every month she fills in what she's billing, deducting from the total. So there are different ways that we can like organize what your invoices would look like. And then, yeah, all of that would get set up in Workday during contracting. And then you would just email the fiscal contact, who's Chris Hobgood, your invoice, and then he issues you the payment.
Okay, cool.
If there are things that you need up front, that should be declared because we can do some upfront costs. So again, like Advocates for Recovery, they needed money upfront to buy a van. So like the
Hmm.
council did approve that as an upfront cost. So we can do some stuff upfront,
Hmm.
but
Okay.
we really prefer that monthly reimbursement model.
Okay. Perfect. That's it. That's all I have.
Yeah,
Yep,
good
that's
job.
it. Awesome. Okay, great. Um, all right, I will get started and then if I have more questions, I think there's another one on the 20th, right? And then I can also just
So I
instead of
did
time through.
actually cancel the office hours on the 20th and the
Oh, okay.
27th because I have those listening
Those
tours.
tours. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so on the 20th, I'm in Jefferson County from 10 to 11, and then I have to drive to Gilpin County and be there
Okay.
from 2 to 3. So I was like trying to make it work, but I was like, that's just like a little too much. If I get stuck in traffic, if anything
Hmm.
happens, I just like won't, if I leave late, kind of a thing, I just like I was pushing it.
Hmm.
And then on the 27th, the office hours right in the middle of the Clear Creek
Hmm.
listening tour. So yeah, I won't be having any more office hours. But I'm highly encouraging people to attend those listening tours,
Yeah,
ask
okay.
questions. You can still use the Q&A form. I check that
Hmm.
probably 2 or 3 times a day. And then I
Gotcha.
usually send you an individual email with the response that I post on the public uh, document just to make
Okay.
sure that people see their answer. And then my bookings page is always open, except for those 2 days. So you can jump on that. I'm done reviewing applications, I guess, on the 26th because I'm not taking meetings on the 27th for the listening tour. So I would find if you want me to review your final application for completeness,
Hmm.
jump on my calendar sooner rather than later because once those spots are filled, I'm not opening up any more spots.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, yeah, and then we have that full council meeting on the 24th. Again, that's open to the public. Highly encourage you to attend. And then I should be announcing the review schedule April 7th or April 8th.
Okay, no problem.
And you can attend those meetings, like it's open to the public.
Right.
And you can do public comment on other applications, just not applications that are grouped in your category.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, and then I guess my only other question, we were gonna do the intervention focus. The only other one I was kind of thinking was maybe harm reduction. Ollie, so sorry. Ollie.
There's no intervention topic. Or
why did I say intervention?
It's prevention.
Prevention. Okay.
Yeah, it's prevention, treatment, recovery, harm reduction, planning and coordination.
Okay.
And then we have a capital, but you don't fit in the capital.
No, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, regardless of what your funding bucket, you think your funding bucket is, if you are asking for construction costs or buying a house, like acquiring land, you're going to go to this capital category that's completely different. And then I will pull from different buckets of money to fund the capital instead of taking everything out of one bucket. You're definitely not treatment.
No.
Definitely not treatment.
No.
I wouldn't even say recovery. I would say prevention or harm reduction.
Yeah, those are the two I was.
That's honestly a me problem, not a you problem. Let me look at this a little. Let's go with, let me do a little bit of research.
Okay.
Like I said, that's more of a me problem, not a you problem.
No worries.
If people submit to the wrong area, like I'll be moving applications around and clumping them together. I can do this right now. So if I don't email you by the end of the day, just send me an email to be like, hey, which category? Just to remind me. But let me do a little bit more digging to see like what would be the best for your initial submission, and then just knowing that like I might move you depending on the applications that we get.
Okay, sounds good.
I know there's a lot of people who are like right in the middle, and I'm like, no, please just pick a bucket.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you so much for this time and all your hard work. And
thank you. That means so much.
I know it's hard work. It's a lot. So thank you. And like the webinars are great. They're so informative. And yeah, thank you.
Yes. I'm excited for your application.
Yeah, we will get it done. It'll be great. Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.